most important things your dog needs to do in agility, and that is take the jump in extension. This is not a turning game. This is a go, go, giddy up, go on, big extension line game. We spend way too much time turning the dog, so we need to make sure that we have a nice foundation of extension. Now, bear in mind what the physical cue for go looks like. It is big steps, arms pumping. You don't need an arm out to the side or forward, and a lot of connection to the dog. We'll talk about connection in a few minutes. If you can, while you're doing this, drop your shoulders a little bit forward, that will open up your stride. The dogs need stride length, because when you decelerate, your stride gets little. When you accelerate, your stride gets big, and the way to get ourselves to accelerate is to drop our shoulders forward and pump our arms. Now, the most important part is keep your eye on the dog. Now, when the dog is ahead of you, Nacho, I need your head. Come here, buddy. Sit. When the dog is ahead of you, I'm still gonna look at his head because it points my upper body to where I want him to go. People tend to, when the dog is ahead, they tend to look forward, which actually turns your upper body away from the line. So, bye Notch. Whether you are 2 feet behind the dog or parallel to the dog or 20 feet behind, you're gonna wanna always look for their head. Now, do they see you? Yes. Because their peripheral vision comes all the way back here, ours stops around here, they see you pretty well. And as long as they see you and hear you, meaning hear your motion and hear you yelling, go, 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 then they will be able to drive ahead of you. Now, the placement of reinforcement for this game is always out ahead. Big extension line, they have to go big through the uprights to get it. The reward for this will never, ever, ever come from your hands. So here's what all this looks like. Starting with the dog on an angle to the jump, so they're jumping it on a slice and not straight on, you are going to get them all excited. Ready, 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 ready. Easy enough. You're going to look at the dog because your connection is the key part. You'll be holding the dog or gently pushing back. Have something to throw in your other hand, and you're going to get them all excited. Ready, ready, ready. Then you're going to take off and run towards the jump. When the dog is looking at the jump is when you throw the reward. Don't wait for them to go through the uprights or land. You're gonna wanna get that reward thrown before they take the jump and before they look back at you. The behavior that we're marking is drive ahead of the handler. Now, the reason that you have to do it on a slant is that so you can run parallel and fast. If you do it straight on, the chances are that you're gonna get stuck behind the wing, and then either have to slow down or turn, and that is not an extension cue. So we're not gonna start asking for you to go straight on until we have it parallel. So here's what it looks like with the puppy. She seems willing to play. Come here, Hottie. Ready? Whee! Here's toy. Oh. So I've got the toy ready to throw. I'm looking at her. I'm gonna let go and just run. They're not starting in a stay, it's just a gentle restraint. Woo! Good girlie! So good! Bring a ting! Yay! Now if you noticed, I got this thrown before she looked back at me, marking, good girl, marking the moment where she said, okay, I'll drive to that jump. Now she's a baby dog, so I started relatively close. If this is going well, you can start further and further away. Come here, you. So I'm gonna start maybe, come here, yeah, maybe 9 feet away, 3 meters, 2 meters, same exact angle, same exact looking at the dog, same exact, woohoo, let go and run. Yes, good girl, yay, nice, yes. So that went pretty well at 3 meters, now I'm gonna back off, come here, you, hey. Now this is the furthest she's ever done. Let's see what happens. Ready? Steady. I look at the dog. Yay! Good girl! Whee! Good girl. Nice. Now the reason you have to look at the dog and not at the jump is because it turns your upper body to where you want the dog to go. So here's the dog. Come here, hot sauce. Come here. When I look at her, it points my chest directly to the jump. When I look at the jump, it points my chest past the jump. So they're not reading my eyes, they're reading where my chest is going. And the easiest way to point your chest the right direction is to look at the dog. So make sure before you let them go that you look at the dog. That is so key. Now the other thing that is key here is that you don't fling your arm and point. You're just gonna wanna run. The cue is simply run. Run with connection. If you fling your arm, yay, good girl. She just got paid for doing it. But notice how when I fling, it turns my chest away. And that's when many, many dogs either hesitate and knock the bar, or they go right past it, especially the young dogs. So resist the temptation to point. Just look at the dog and run. That is your go cue. Now, hi, speaking of the go cue, if that goes pretty well from 2 meters, 3 meters, you can add your go cue, which is your verbal extension cue to help the dog drive away from you. My go cue is go. It's not terribly creative, but it works. And so when I say it, it's loud and it's long. It's intended to push the dog up the line. And when you have the behavior, you can name it. And naming it, haha, it looks like this. Come here. Ready? The whole setup is the same. You look at the dog, you start to run, and right before you start to run, you say the word. Go! Yay! Reinforcement out at the line helps create the behavior. Good girlie. So I'll do that again from a little further away. Good baby, you're so clever. I nubs know, I nubs the clevers. Go! Ah! Oops. Let's do that again. Come here. It was a big oopsie. Hot sauce. Thank you. So no big party. This is my fault. Come here. Ready? Go! Yay! So on the oopsie moment, we all have those, I wasn't really looking, kind of running sideways to the jump. Not my greatest handling moment. No big deal. I don't get mad at the dog. I just redo it. Come here, hot sauce. Was that fun? Good girlie. So you might have an oopsie moment. No big deal. If the dog is wrong and you don't reward, no biggie. Now, if the dog is wrong twice, you're going to have to make it easier. This is a motion cue, so if they're wrong, you don't want to dial back your motion. You just want to be closer. So we'll make sure that the dog gets a high rate of success. One of the ways that we can build on you being able to run forward to more of a T to the jump and not on a slice is by adding a bit of a wing wrap right before it. You can see I've moved a stanchion over there to send the dog around. Your dogs, I think, all know how to do that. But the trick is not to send and leave. Send the dog, stay there, and as he comes around, you're going to show them your accelerated motion and your go so that they drive ahead of you. Remember, this is not them chasing the jump behind you. This is you getting them to drive ahead of you on your go cue. So here's what that looks like. Go! Hey, good body! Go! Go! Yay, good body! Now, it's perfectly okay to throw food rewards provided that the dog can find the food rewards. So when I throw food, I tend to use big pieces of string cheese. They're very obvious, they don't crumble anywhere, and it's easy for the dogs to find. Now, some of the dogs, you might throw food because that's their favorite reinforcement. Some of the dogs you might throw food because they track the toy and they turn their head, and we absolutely want them to be looking ahead on this go cue. Now there's a second level of this game that we're going to play once you get the first level going really well. The second level is going from handler focus to go on the line. And that's one of the most important things in agility, to get the dog to focus on you when you want it, and then go, go, go when you don't want them looking at you, when you want them to drive on the line. Now remember that your go cue is you're connected, you're accelerating, your shoulders are dropping, and you're yelling the magic word, go. Now, some of the dogs don't really know how to circle around on your hip, so it's okay to play little handler focus games like hand touches, like you'll see me do with the puppy. Either one is good. So here's what that looks like.